Here, you look over here, the Hemshech over here, or the Sikha that's before the Maamar. There's very stark Lashonas here in the faded page, on page 42. What's that? Emes Atomim was learning from Sidis. It says Meret, and it looks like we're speaking to the four walls. There's people that don't listen to the Divrei Torah in the Febringen, but when Meret Di and Yonim, Divrei Roiges, then everyone wakes up. Not fun. Anyway, then the Rebbe said, Ein laharich b'dvarim ha-mitzarim, and then the Rebbe went into the Maamar. Maamar Kein Sicha. Anyway, so this Maamar, as it says on the bottom, so it's a hemshech to the previous Maamar, and the hemshech continues in the next Maamar. It's a 3 Maamar hemshech. Huh?
What was this thing about?
You see in that kufa, in Lamed Hey, there's a few sichas. Right, we spoke about it. Yutas Kislev time. It was the sicha Parshas Miketz. It was said that he's chazering the Elam Kochnish and the Maamar and the Hadron. Right, and then the Rebbe said, I tried to chazer a Maamar almost verbatim of the Friedrich Rebbe and the Rebbe Shmuel Zayden. It's the Ayer Rebbe. Yeah, it's the Ayer Rebbe. Anyway, so here is the Geshmaka Hemshech, which speaks about the kesher of Yitzias Mitzrayim and the Geula Asida. And Kimeit Seischa Meret Mitzrayim Adenu Niflois. So in the Maamorim you have 2 tracks. In some Maamorim, you have in the Mugadik Maamorim Befrat, in some Maamorim it speaks about this Indian, that what's the Pshat Kimeit Seischa Meret Mitzrayim Adenu Niflois? That Adenu Niflois biyachas till you made Seischa Meret Mitzrayim. Meaning it's not Snav Niflois. When we left Mitzrayim it was also Niflois. When Mashiach comes, the niflois that will be then will be niflois biyachas to the niflois of Kimei Teis Chameretz Mitzrayim. Right? Even relative to those niflois, this will be niflois. As the Rebbe used this, paraphrase this Indian, when we get to the Chiddush of Ayin Beis over Samach Vav. Samach Vav is niflois. But Ayin Beis is Kimei Teis Chameretz Mitzrayim, and niflois, it's niflois biyachas to the niflois of Samach Vav. When the Rebbe spoke about printing Ayin Beis, which was when? Zayin. Yeah? Yutas Kislev, Chav Kislev Lamed Zayin. So you can see, it's on video, I believe, yeah? You can see that sicher. It says, it's niflois biyachas to niflois. Oh, did they ever then printed Ayin Ches?
No, they printed Ayin Beis. Ayin Beis is printed also from Ayin Ches or something.
You're saying the reprint? For the... yeah, it's still waiting for... No, this Vav. Vav already came out. The Zion is... Huh? It's anonymous. Ayin Beis happens. It's like you talk on miyatzma. It happens on its own. There's no arbin. It's connected to. We'll see the Maamar. The Shmini and Assyria. We'll get to that. Anyway, so sometimes that's the focus. But here in these Maamarim, there's a different focus. Okay. Kimeit Seischa Eretz Yisrael Niflois. That the Niflois of the Geula Asida will be Kimeit Seischa. Sort of we revert. We go back to the niflois of Yitzias Mitzrayim, and that's a psicha, and that's a not just a me'ain. That's like the prototype. Like everything we have when Mashiach comes is just a continuation. It's the natural progression of Yemei Tzeis Chameretz Mitzrayim. So, in the places where we go in the first oifim, which is really the chiddush, which is pashtos, the pshat of the positive, is like the second one I just said now. Yemei Tzeis Chameretz Mitzrayim and niflois now are the similar to niflois then. Then there's a deeper pirush that the niflois of the Mashiach will be even greater, will be niflois biyachas to those niflois. But when Chassidus goes in the kav of biyachas to those niflois, verstandig, we're being mafli the mile of Geula Asida. Right? And all the biur that Chassidus gives, the chiddush of Mashiach over Yitzias Mitzrayim. Yitzias Mitzrayim was givarach ha'am. Mashiach comes is what's the lashon? Lo b'chipazin and b'mnuchad. Right, it won't be b'chipazin. It won't be b'menucha. It will not be b'chipazin. It won't be. We won't have to run. In order, it's going to be momatel l'mat. It won't just be momatel l'mat. But in these Maamarim, the emphasis is b'feidush yeh, that they are constantly interconnected, and the Geula Asida at the end of the day, on some level, I wouldn't say it's tuffle, but it's just like a hemshich. It's a hemshich, and really Yitzias Mitzrayim has a maila over the Geula Asida. So, what did we say in the first Maamar? What was the Nikud there? We talked about this last week. right? That it all starts from Yetzias Mitzrayim and Toiras Moshe and the original Kriyas Yamsuf, and that's sort of where everything starts, where everything goes. And then an Inyan that, what was the Matachlis, that even the Shamis of Asiya, right, not the Shamis of Nunayama, even the Shamis that by them, Elikus B'Yischachos, they can also live a life of Elikus B'Pshittis. By Torah Mitzvahs, you could sort of, can transcend your natural space. In other words, there's what you're shaykh to. You're not really living a life of Atzilus. You're not a tzaddik, you're not an Atzilus, you're an Asiya. And you have Nefesh Bahamas, and you have Yeshlus, and you have Taivas, and you have Al Yonah. But when a Yid commits to Yiddishkeit, a Yid commits to Torah Mitzvahs, Erlebt Hecher, it's like Kriyas Yamsuf. Your Mamshich Yom B'Yabasha, you make that connection. Here, he sort of continues this inyan, but he digs in a bit deeper and explains, by the end of the Maamar he gets to this, why Dafka, Yetzias Mitzrayim, and why we go back to there. So there's a very basic vart, which he says here on page 40. As Matan Torah is abgegeben geworden als, right? We know the vart, the Matan Torah vet nizayin nachamal, that even though they'll be crazy in Yonim and Torah Chalash Miti Teitze, but there won't be a second Torah, there's only one Torah. Right? So ultimately everything starts Matan Torah. Just like everything starts Matan Torah, everything starts Kriyas Yamsuf, that was the Achana for Matan Torah. And everything starts by Kriyas Yamsuf, that was the Achana for that. So, Yetzias Mitzrayim, Kriyas Yamsuf, Matan Torah, that's the catapult of everything. Even the greatest Gilui, everything will happen all over again. There's going to be Golus, there is already Golus, almost 2,000 years of Golus. There's going to be Kiyas Hanar, which is sort of the new Kriyas Yamsuf. And there's going to be the Gilui of Terech Lash Miti Teitze, which is primarily Pnimius. Matan Torah was mainly Nigla, and Los Level was Gilia Pnimius. So everything happens all over again. Sort of history repeats itself in the most amazing way. But Saf, it's history repeating itself. Maybe on a higher level, but it all starts there, it all comes there. Because when we say there's another Matan Torah, it doesn't mean Matan Torah 1, Matan Torah 2. There's one Matan Torah. And the Gilui of the Inyan and the Pnimius of the Inyan will come out later. But it was all given there. It all really exists over there. There's a Sikh in Chelik Aleph where the Rebbe says, Yisrael, I believe, that Rebbe says there that this that we say that by Matan Torah was given the Nigla, and later on, and when Mashiach comes, we get the Pnimius as a chana for the Geula, we have the Pnimius. That's all in the Gilui of Torah b'Poyel. But you look at actually what happened when you go back to Matan Torah. What actually happened Matan Torah? By the Matan Torah event itself, what did Yidden see? Saw Ma'aseh Merkava, right? They saw the greatest Giluyim, and then they received the Torah and they learned the Torah b'Hemshech L'zeh. But at the point of Matan Torah itself, Adrabah, the Pnimius was Begilu. The Torah, we heard a few Aseres Adibris, and then the rest of Torah was brought down. We learned it later. At the moment of Matan Torah, in a way, Fakir, that Pnimius was already Begilu. It just brings out that point that really everything was given then. Fine, that's on a very almost balabatish. It all started then. Okay, what are we actually trying to say over here? What's going on in the Maamar? What's the Nikud, or what's the Chiddush of the Maamar? Who finished the Maamar? Who went through the Maamar? Went through the Maamar? Well, what did you pick up? Okay. When we say that as Shaykhs to the Geula, as Shaykhs to which Geula? Okay, and which parts of the Geula Siddha? Oh, so part of the Chiddush here is, the Chiddush almost comes to Behemshech to Nekui trying to bring out over here. So sometimes we look at Mashiach, there's this Kufa, you might say Mashiach, we know there's multiple Kufas in Mashiach, all the Sikhs, but Mashiach, it's certain. Here, he very clearly is Mechalik, that it's not just that there's multiple Kufas, it's very different perspectives, right? The Kufas are very, there's a clear delineation, there's a clear halukah here of the relationship of the Geula to Galos, the relationship of the Geula to ourselves. Because what's the Geula? Geula means Gila Likus. Right? Was it in Perek Lamed Zayin Tanya that the Ma'aseh Mashiach and Chis Ma'aseh, what is it? It's Gila Likus Beilam Hazagash. Right? That's what it's all about. It's being Gila Likus when Mashiach comes. Yeah, the Tkufa of Chesed, not just Chesed Mesim, it's what that whole era represents. So, There's Gilui Likus. So when we speak about Kufis in Yemei Mashiach, we speak about Kufis of, okay, what is Mashiach doing? Is he fighting wars? Is he teaching Torah? Is he before the dead are alive? After the dead come back to life? But that's already the almost like the nigla of it. The yonim gluyim shebadavar. Will there be madanim? What kind of madanim? Which hechsher? Right? And all the good stuff. Huh? That's the real question. But Mashiach comes, doch. So what's gonna? But what's the Primus Inyan? The Primus Inyan, what it really boils down to is, what kind of Giluyim will there be? What kind of Gilui Likus? When we say there's different Kufis, it means there's different Dargis in Gilui Likus, different Ifanim Gilui Likus. So what are these different Ifanim, the way he explains it here in the Maamar? So he says the general Chalukah, right, he starts speaking about this in page 37, and then from there, the next few pages, that the Giloyim of Mesa Mashiach are nimshach through Avodas HaBirurim, and the Giloyim of Tchias HaMeis and the Giloyim of Elam Haba is Giloy Taina Ga'atzmi. Or basically, the Giloyim of Yemoyis HaMashiach come through our Avodah. We're Mevarei Birurim, right? What does it mean to be Mevarei Birurim? We're elevating. We're elevating the sparks. What does it practically mean? It means we're taking Elam Haza, we're taking the Gashmis of Elam Haza, and we're constructing from it a dir. We're making a dir lo yisparach. We're using our koiches, our guf, our nefesh bahamis, chelkei ba'olam, these tables, whatever we're doing, the food we eat, the work, anything that we're doing, our isaskus in elam hazeh, and we're elevating, we're making a dir, which is basically pretty much our avodah here in this world. And then when Mashiach comes, it says, the Alter Rebbe explains, schar mitzvah mitzvah. What does it mean, schar mitzvah mitzvah? So you can say schar mitzvah mitzvah is mitzvah gereres mitzvah. Schar mitzvah is that you'll do another mitzvah. Chassidus explains what's schar mitzvah mitzvah. Schar mitzvah mitzvah is, you know what the schar of mitzvah we're going to get when Mashiach comes? What's the schar? The giloy of that mitzvah. What did you do when you do a mitzvah? You're mamshech alikos in this world. You don't see it. There's great giloy going on. Resentness. When Mashiach comes, we're going to see. Right? We're gonna put on those 3D glasses, and all of a sudden, I couldn't see it before. Infrared, right? We're able to see everything. This is the mitzvah that I did, and this is the iskafia, and this is the Abbas Yisrael, right? All of a sudden, it's so clear. We're over here, we just go through the moves, and sometimes you feel it, you don't feel it, you're inspired, you're not inspired. I learned today, I didn't learn today, big deal. You don't see the pu'ula. Then we'll see the big pu'ula. And that's to me the biggest schar, because that's all you need. Greatest gilui likus. What's gilui likus? So we're mamshech in this world. So that's stage 1. Phase 1. Phase 2 is, what's the lesson that the Sham Nismecha, what's the pasuk? Sham Nismecha, yeah? Nor Ravi Brogel, Sham Nismecha. Sham Nismecha, it goes in Elam Haba, there, that's not connected to our Avodah. That's not connected to our Avodah. That's not a Gilui that comes down, a Gilui because it comes down through our Avodah. Our Avodah is Mamshech a certain Gilui Likus. Rather, that's Sham Nismecha Boy Batzmus. It's something that, it's an Eibush Darlin, it's a Gilui Milmail. In other words, the Eibush himself is in Skala to us. It's not something that we brought out through our Avodah. It's the next stage. It comes on its own. It's almost like, first do all you have to do. Do your part. Right? And then you'll get the schar for it. It will be in a skala, what you brought into this world. Let's do ufkitan. Once that's taken care of, we get to the next kuf, and now it's the Eibishter on his terms. Right? The Eibishter comes, Vayehi the Vaylar Sinai, it's much more. The Eibishter Alei. Right, it's almost like you try to build a relationship with somebody. So when you build a relationship, for whatever reason, you want something out of them. So initially, it's sort of it's like tluya b'davar, right? So you give that other person something that they need, and they give something that you need, and then and whatever, depending on what kind of relationship it is, and then you get right return on investment. You invest, and you get the return based off that investment. But then you sort of, okay, you're already hanging out, you're already connected, and all of a sudden, something deeper comes out of here. Now, it's not just you're connecting to that person based off of what you gave and sort of his reciprocation. Here, it's like after that relationship is built, something, a deeper relationship happens, something atmosphere, not based off anything, not as a reciprocation of anything. Then you know. Then he comes and says, okay, so now, That Meheretz Mitzrayim, the Tzias Mitzrayim, and the Hemshech that comes to Tzias Mitzrayim, right? There are Avodah that comes from the Hemshech of Tzias Mitzrayim. That brings about our enu niflaois. What's the niflaois? The multiple niflaois of Mashiach. What's the multiple niflaois? Yemais Mashiach and Olam Haba, both stages. So not only the schar mitzvah, not only that which our avodah brings about comes behemshech to, and is an outcome of Yitzias Mitzrayim, but even Olam Haba, the Gelim of Olam Haba, there also come behemshech to Yitzias Mitzrayim. In other words, even this that we're making the sleep from Yitzias Mitzrayim to the first Kufay Meis Mashiach is already fine. So this whole avodah from Yitzias Mitzrayim, from Golos Mitzrayim, Yitzias Mitzrayim, and the Hemshech, all the way till Mashiach coming, it's one Hemshech. Fine, I get that. But the Niflois, once we reach the second Darga, which is Gilia Atzmos, Yitzad Atzmoi, how is that come Hemshech? How does that come? How is that predicated on Yitzias Mitzrayim? How do we relate Yitzias Mitzrayim to that? Yitzias Mitzrayim is so. In other words, it's beferish about these in Yon that we say the other pirish. That it's gar, it's niflois, even b'yachas to these niflois. Why? Because it's a completely different level. We were saying no, even the greatest niflois, the greatest gelulim of La'aseh Lavai, could all be traced back to Yitzias Mitzrayim and our avodah today. Our avodah today, B'etzem, is Yitzias Mitzrayim, which is why I'm scared Yitzias Mitzrayim every single day. Bayomim, uvaleilois, and ultimately, maskirin Yitzias Mitzrayim, even Yemais Mashiach. Because even the greatest gelulim of Yemais Mashiach, and later, even Tchias HaMesim, come behemshech lazeh. So how does that work? And how do we sort of bridge that gap? How do we connect Yitzias Mitzrayim to the gelulim that come mitzad atzma? So there's a few steps here. So first of all, hagufah kasha. Why do we first go through Yemais Mashiach and then Olam Haba? Meaning, why do we first have the tainug? Why do we first have the giloyim that come behemshech to our avodah, and then what comes momayla? It comes momayla. Why does that come? Why does it have to wait for avodah? Let it come on its own. There was a vart of chassidim. As dartin vu avodah can clean it, is grab kai can stir nicht. Right? In that level, in that giloy, in that space, where your avodah, no matter how bottle you are, and how ibergeben you are, and how much of a chassid you are, and how much of a yid you are, it can't be mamshechit because it's completely beyond. So if your avodah can't be mamshechit, your heder avodah, your yeshus, your achman san averis, it can't get out of the way. The Chayre Yemaisa Mashiach is we're all that out. Yeah, that we do. We look back and we say, "Oh, this is cool. Like we brought this about. This is what we brought about." It's literally that. It's literally a giloy of everything that we did over thousands of years. But Tchias HaMesim is Momay. It's from Zichalei, from the Eibusher himself. So why does that wait? Why does that come after Yemaisa Mashiach? It almost sounds like that also is Tali. That itself already tells us that's already a Tali in our Avodah, right? Hagufa, that it's step 2. Step 2 comes after step 1. Step 1 is Tali in our Avodah, and step 2 has to wait for step 1 to take place in order for step 2 to come in. So step 2 also is Tali in our Avodah. If not, why would it have to take place afterwards? Just like let's say when a person's born, before we have all our Giluyim, right? Before we have all our Giluyim and all our Kovetz and Resources, Nefesh Lekis, Nefesh, what's the first thing a Yid has? Nefesh Etzem Neshama. Etzem Neshama, the moment a Yid is born, Etzem Neshama. Do you have to wait till you have? Now first you have to have your midas, and then your seichel, then all your Giluyim, and then Etzem. No, Etzem comes on its own. Etzem doesn't wait for Giluyim l'chayr. But here it seems no. First you need stage 1 of Yemais Mashiach is Giluyim, and Giluyim are sort of a give and take, right? It's a return on our investment. It's something that we brought about. It's a level in Elikos that we sort of have a relationship with, and he gives us based off what we give him. And then after that, once you're done with the first kufa, then comes the Gilead Atzmos. Why should Gilead Atzmos wait? But Haguf that it's waiting shows that there is this process, and that also stuff goes back, right? Goes back to the original avodah. So so he brings the Mishalim here. It's a very interesting nusach he has over here when they get to the Mishalim and the whole. Right, where's this Maamar Miyosadan? Calls it the Maamar Tipul Elei Mimasu Afachad Hagadol. So that the greatest Tipul Mimasu Afachad. What's the Tipul Mimasu Afachad Hagadol? It's a Maamar of the Mittel Rebbe. It's actually a Maamar from 200 years ago. Pesach, if I'm not mistaken, Pesach Tavkuf Pevav. 200 years ago, a Langa Maamar. There's a Chalav Mittel Rebbe's Maamar very, very long. This is not a Langa Maamar. I think it's like 20 pages. Sorry, not 20. 20 dapim. So 40 pages of Teiras Chaim. Each page is 2 columns, 2 big, massive columns. So it's 80 columns. That's the Maamar. Taka Gadol. It was impressive even for the Mittel Rebbe. It's a great Maamar. So it's a very Yisraelic Maamar when it gets to the Goyim of Lasalava. And there, as he says over here, that it's the first place, because in the Mittel Rebbe's Maamar, this is one of the inyanim that he brings up a lot. Yesh, ayin, yesh. And yesh, ayin, ayin, yesh. I think we might have discussed it earlier on in the year. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah or no? I don't remember. We discussed it, right? Yesh, ayin, yesh, yesh, ayin, yesh. And he says there's multiple mishalim about it. And it's mevur sham barichus biur mosik alze. A gishmak. How did I ever say it? Maybe a gishmak. It's on Shabbos. A gishmake or a zisse biur of them. And it's called Tip Alei Masaf Hachal Agadol. And it says it's a drush arich and has kama sif and kama inyan. So over there it brings this inyan. So he says the difference between the first level and the next level, Yemais Mashiach and Ilam Haba, is there's multiple levels in Tainug. Right? It rolls down to 3 levels in Tainug. There's Tainug in the Midas, Tainug of Bina, Tainug of Moichin, and then there's Tainug Atzmi. Right, so even close, we have in all the places it's called Tainug Amurkov and Tainug Atzmi. Right, so you have tainug that comes, the tainug that a person has comes from something gishmak. You eat something gishmak, you see something gishmak, you're having a good time, there's a good experience going on, you have go on a good trip, whatever. Learning gishmak a sugya, more nefshal kiss, gishmak a bissel von alt. So tainug. So that's tainug Morocco, it comes from something. And there's tainug atzmi comes from within. Internal tainug. I mean, this tainug doesn't come from anything outside the person. It's for care. It's the essential tainug. Sometimes it's explained as the tainug, the etzam achayis. The fact that I'm alive. The fact that I'm alive is the rest of tainug. Now, granted, very often we don't feel that tainug. Like sometimes in order to feel that tainug, you have to be. Sometimes people have near-death experiences or very, very scary experiences, and they feel their life is in danger, and then they're like, like they appreciate the fact that they're alive. Like, for the moment they want to feel it, because it's so atzmistic you can't really feel it. That's why in Tainug Atzmi there's the Tainug Atzmi Hamurgash and there's Eini Murgash. At the deepest level you don't even feel it. It's just like the Etzim Hachayis almost. Anyway, reads the Mittel Rebbe. So the Mittel Rebbe is a very interesting vart about this Nekuda. So the Chayra, the Tainug Atzmi is always there, right? He doesn't wait for Tainug Hamurgash. The fact that we have Tainug is always Etzim Tainug we always have. It's not only when you have a good ice cream or a Geshmak Sugya. Someone just got excited. Which ice cream is that? Closed, right? So what's so he says even though it's be'etzem dir, but the giloy of that tainug, even the tainug atzmi, it comes behemshich and after the tainug hamurk. It sort of triggers it. So he brings he uses multiple gemois. One of the gemois he brings, to paraphrase it, is Gate and Hesa Mikveh. He says Abatya, yeah, but like not like our style, like the real, like the 5 bayres and the full deal. Hey, don't call out people over here. It's not the. No, they have something else. They don't have bayres. But anyway, so just construction. So a person, right, so you go in the boiler. So, and there's a lot of heat, a lot of schwitz, and there's a tainug there, right? It brings a certain tainug. So that's a tainug hamurkav. It's coming from something. He says, but when is the ultimate tainug? After the hesa mikveh and the kalta mikveh and the schwitz and the dry schwitz and the wet schwitz and the alle chashvein. When's the ultimate tainug? After he sits down, he's on a towel. Now, what are you feeling now? There's nothing. This is like the ultimate bliss. It's like, oh, the guy's like sitting there for like an hour after. He's already out. What's he doing now? What happens is that when you go through those levels of Tainug HaMurkov and the sort of different stages of Tainug, it brings you to a place where it calms down the system and the whole nervous system, right? And then I was like, oh, now I could just be with myself, right? Sitting on the beach, yeah. Now it's like there's nothing. Like that. Right, what's he feeling right now? There's nothing right now being mo'ir. There's no hesavasher. There's no das. There's no kalta. There's nothing, right? But after the Tainug HaMurkov, yeah, anyone relates? Nobody. You say there one day. You might see someone. You might have seen someone acting. Yeah, that's fine. After, right, sort of you go through Tainug HaMurkov, then is the skala the Tainug Atzmi. Now the Tainug Atzmi is able to. There's nothing blocking the Tainug Atzmi. Nothing can be mamshich. Your avodah is not mamshich, and your heder avodah is not being ma'akiv. But the giloi by the person, sham nismecha boy, giloi nismecha, what's the lashon? Sham nismecha boy, that we will nismecha boy, b'atzmusay, that the yidden will be margish that simcha, that comes behemshich. So we go through the stage. We're mamshich l'tainug, we're mamshich l'tainug of bina, which is connected to the Tainug of the middle, so we're getting to all the pratim there. And Mehemshech Lazeh, then we get the Tainug Atzmi. Fine, so that's a practical dogma, and sort of see how it works. The question then is, but why? In other words, why suf? Why suf? Do we have that highest level, that Invas Nimshech Mitzad Atzmi L'Chayra, and Atzmos von Ebersten, Dafka, that is associated, with the Yisiyas Mitzrayim and our Avodah. So that, he says, at the end of the Maamar, that what is mamshech li'goyim v'laselavi, our avodah. Why? So you can come and say tzar mitzvah. Our avodah brings down ipс giluyim, so it brings down giluyim. That's the giluyim that we get the first kuf, which is the giluyim that are sort of a hamsha. It's a giluy of what we were mamshech. But really, what is Torah mitzvahs? It's being mamshech giluyim. What's Torah mitzvahs? It's mamshech the hechstel yoyin mintatachtoyin, right? As he says, and that's the meaning of a dira. The bayis shaloi, the mekoyim shal yoyin lamata, right? That the atzmos of the Eibishter. So hagufa, that hamshach, that gilui ha'atzmos of the olam haba. How do we access it? How do we relate it? How do we have a shaykhus to it? Through our Torah mitzvahs today. So our Torah mitzvahs today, and the pashta, the gashmistika, not the meruchnistika, ava v'yir, the gashmistika, semer gashmi, tefillin miklaf gashmi, right? It's the inyanim gashmiim that make a dira lo yizbarich, lo yilatzmosei. Uvimela, so what does it mean? So we're mamshech atzmos. Atzmos is always in this world, right? The whole world is the Eibush there. So what does it mean mamshech? We have a shaykhus to it. By doing Torah mitzvahs, we have a shaykhus to it. Now we relate it. So now when the Tainug Atzmi is niskala, what does it mean it's niskala? And the Tainug Atzmi is always here. The Eibush always has Tainug Atzmi in Yisrael, right? There's the Tainug the Eibush has in Yidden Mitzad or Avodah. We did something for him, so he has a geshmak. And then there's the Tainug Atzmi that he has in Yisrael, just like a father has a Tainug Atzmi in the child. The Eibush has Tainug Atzmi in the Yidden. That's always here. But in the Olam Haba, we feel it. Why? Because then there's the gilui of our mitzvahs. Because sort of the gilui of our mitzvahs, here's the trick, right? The gilui of our mitzvahs should only bring the first dark, which is a hemshech of our mitzvahs. The gilui of our mitzvahs, the mitzvahs, by doing mitzvahs, what we do is we build a relationship with atzmos. The kesher of atzmos with the yid is always there, but it's mitzad the Eibishter. It's mitzad the etzem. When a yid does Torah mitzvahs, they express that, right? They actually have a shaykhus. They're part of it. They invested in this. So now, the Hamshachas Atzmos has a shaykhus to them. So now, when the second kufah comes, and even though we're already past the schar for our mitzvahs, it's the Tainug Atzmi of the Eibishter and Yidden is, but now it could be begili, because now the Yidden have a shaykhus to them through their Torah mitzvahs.
What's the difference between how mitzvahs are kind of for mitzvah shift and how?
What's the difference between?
How
between the Torah mitzvahs of. You're saying what's of the Torah mitzvah it's going to be? The relationship between the two?
Both Mashiach and Haba our relationship to it is a result of our doing Torah.
So here the Chayr, the vart would be here the Yemaisa Mashiach. It's an actual outgrowth of it. It is it. Right? It's not like you go to cons and you give them $1 and you get a roll. When you give them $1 and you get a donut or whatever, or donuts are now $5, whatever. It used to be, yeah. Gumbos, all of a sudden, huh? Yeah. So your $1. So when you go to the cashier and you give them $1, the $1 doesn't turn into a donut. It doesn't turn into a bagel. It doesn't turn, or you put, or you swipe your credit card and you take out and you get a can of Coke. Your credit card doesn't turn into Coca-Cola, right? Masha'enke, and you put dough into the oven. What comes out? It's not like I put dough lit the fire there, and then bread came out. No, the dough turned into bread, right? So in the first kufa, what we're getting our mitzvahs back. It's like, here's our mitzvahs. Now it's well baked. Here, take your well baked sour bread. Here it is, the gilui. It's a gilui of that thing itself. Olam haba, we're not getting the gilui of the mitzvahs. We're getting a gilui of a kesher atzmi and a tainug atzmi of the Eibishter with the yid. This that we're able to feel it, we're able to see it. It's because the mitzvahs sort of turn on the lights, that we could see the truth, and we see the kesher atzmi of yidden with the Torah, of yidden with the Eibishter. Why could mitzvahs be that which enable us to see it? Because mitzvahs have a shaykhs midatzvahs. So mitzad that, so the shaykhs atzmos. So therefore, it's sort of it allows us to experience that relationship that we have with atzmos yizbar.
Is it physical muscle fit?
I think I brought in the past. So you have there's the medrash brought in the sichos that the king had a child, and he wanted to give him it's a gift. He wanted to give him something special. I wasn't sure which gift, which thing of the palace to give him. And then he decided, I'll give him the most important thing. We'll give him the eved zaki, most prized eved, personal eved of the king. And what's going to be the job of the eved? The job of the eved is to educate the kid, to mechanech the kid, to work with him, to teach him the ways of the land, the ways of the palace, and then until what? Until that the child he should turn into the prince. So when the king gives the eved to the child, he wants the kid to become a mechunich of the eved. What does he want him to become? What's the final product? He should be, here's the eved, nice eved. Eved teaches child becomes a hemshich of the eved. No. He didn't give him a good educator, he should be a good student of the eved. Rather, he should be megale, his prince shaft, yeah? He should be the real prince. The eved is here to serve the prince, to allow the prince to be a prince. So Chazal explain. There's is Torah mitzvahs. The prince is the child. The prince is the yid, and Torah mitzvahs is the eved. Pashtus, we're here to do Torah mitzvahs. That's one perspective, and that would be the perspective of the first kuf of Mashiach. We're here to do Torah mitzvahs, then we get the geluim. Shkoyach you do Torah mitzvahs, so you get those geluim. You see what it brought about. But with Pnimis Hinyoni, the Torah mitzvahs is the eved, is the prized possession that the king, that the Eibishter gives to the child, to the prince, to the Yidden. And why does he give it to the Yidden? Something like that. There's a whole nusach there. But to teach us how to live and how to be princes. Now, why? Now, it doesn't say the clearly, but the answer would be, why is the Eved, how could the Eved do that? The Eved, you have a teacher, he educates a child comes like the teacher. How could the Eved be Megala in the prince, that he's a prince? you educate somebody for many years, you'll become like the educator. Daila Evid, Daila Bobman, like Daila the Liasker Rabbi. L'chayr would Sakal turn into the Evid. It turn into what's the word? Because he's an Evid. Right? He doesn't have any identity of his own. His home Metzias is that he's the Evid HaMelech. So his home Metzias is to be Megala in the child, his connection to the Melech. Not he should be an independent teacher that turns his child into his own personal student. There's a Torah mitzvah. Torah mitzvah is Amshachas Atzmis. Over Mele, they trigger their Megala by a Yid, his Kesher Atzmi to the Eibishter. And so therefore, after stage 1, we reach into the next stage. So first Torah mitzvah does its first level. That's like in the Hesed Mikveh. And then you come out like, oh, now it's Ersh Geshmak. So if you see that guy kratzing for too long, you tell him you're missing the